Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 57th episode of Let's Talk Inclusion. My name is Manobina Chakraborty, the founder of I for Inclusion. And today we will discuss once again about equality versus equity for neurodiversity inclusion. Now, let me introduce you to my guests. We have Michael Purchase from Leeds, Sandra Tibbles from Oxford. Both of them are joining us from the UK. And Sujata Diwan is joining us from Brunei. Hello, my dear colleagues. Welcome to Let's Talk Inclusion. Michael and Sujata were my guests in this program before. Sandra is here for the first time. So, Sandra, let me come to you first. Could you please tell our viewers about yourself?
Yes, of course. Well, thank you for this opportunity. It's wonderful to join you today. I'm a consultant in the UK, but I work with clients all over the world. But I'm working within the field of inclusion and SEND, special educational needs, and my background is as I was a secondary teacher for many years, and then moved into working with primary age children, so from early years right the way through to sort of age 12. And then because I was interested in the whole child and in the diverse needs of children in general, I moved into special education where I've been a head teacher, and I've also set up an independent social emotional mental health schools, so specifically in the UK working with children with neurodiverse profiles or profiles where they have social emotional needs. So that's a little bit about me, and I work with schools, lots of schools. I also work with parents as well, so it's lovely to have this opportunity to talk today.
Amazing. Thank you very much for joining us, Sandra. Sujata, may I now ask you to say a few words about your work? Sujata? I think, Sujata, are you there? Video is frozen, I guess. I guess so. Sujata will come back and join us. Before that, then let me come to you, Michael. I think it's your fifth or sixth time here, Michael.
I know. I don't know why, Manobina, you keep inviting me back. I really don't. I'm honoured and privileged to.
You are an integral part of our team of collaborators at I for Inclusion.
I am, and I'm proud to be a part of that team as well, Manobina. Thank you for having me back. It's a great collaboration, is this, and I've said it before. I'll say it publicly now. You do a fantastic job in coordinating this every Friday, and you bring people in with a range of interests. So, yeah, keep up the good work. So, those of you that are regulars here will know about me already, but just for those that are, I'm sure people are joining you every week, Manobina, as the word spreads about the success of this. I'm from the UK. Like Sandra, I was trained as a secondary school teacher, and I quickly fell into special education, really, and I loved it, and that's where I felt at ease, comfortable, in terms of what we do and making a difference. I think the impact of what we do in special education is instantly visible, and it's a fantastic place to be. So I was in special education. I was a special school head teacher for 19 years. So I've got a lot of years under my belt. Then in 2016, I left that. I thought I was going to retire at the time, to be honest. But within a couple of weeks of the new school year starting, I was back in a school. So I've done a lot of training, a lot of consultancy. My current role now, my main role now really is teacher training. So I work with Leeds Beckett University here in the UK, and that's what I do. I help to train teachers, and I must say I love it. I really do enjoy it, helping the new generation of teachers develop their skills. So it's great to be back. I mean, my main interest is around reducing exclusions in schools, social inclusion. That's a big area of my interest, but all things SEND, anything to do with inclusion will gets me interested, gets me excited. So here I am. Thanks again, Manobina.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thanks a lot. Sujata, if you are back, Sujata, could you please tell our viewers about yourself a bit? Yes, Sujata. Can't hear you. Can you hear? Is she audible to you, Michael, Sandra? We're not audible, Sujata.
I think she's turned her mute off, but unfortunately there might be a delay. We can't hear her.
Yes, Sujata.
We were just saying, weren't we, before we came on air about the about technology and how it can catch us sometimes. And here's an example of it, unfortunately.
Yes, we can't hear her.
It may be that she leaves the link and rejoins. Manobina.
Yes, you can try that, Sujata. If you can leave and rejoin, I think it would be the best. I can help you in that way, maybe. Let me remove you, and then you please rejoin. Sorry, but I had to remove her. Let her come back. So, no, she is still not coming. So, Sandra, let me come to you. What is your take on the role of equality and equity for neurodiversity inclusion?
It's quite interesting actually working in schools currently, and I've been reflecting since knowing I was going to be doing this on what that means and what that looks like in schools. And I think it is this there is this notion that everyone should have the same opportunity or the same, particularly with regard to having access to a broad, balanced curriculum. But what is broad and balanced for one child might not be broad and balanced for another. And I think for me in particular, what I'm noticing is that there's this kind of concern about if we tailor things, or if we are inclusive in that we provide equity for young people who need adaptations or who need their curriculum to look differently, are we somehow limiting them in an aspirational sense? And I don't think we are. I use the example, one of the schools I was working with, all children had to do 11 GCSEs, and they had to do a language, and and there's this notion that actually they, if a child is in front of a qualified teacher, somehow they're going to be able to learn by osmosis, and the best place for that young person therefore is in front of a qualified teacher. And I think that's just not the case. I think it's about for me, it's about preparing young people for adulthood from the earliest of years. It's about looking at, yes, be aspirational, but let's put the support in place to enable that. And we're sometimes talking about very simple adaptations, or very sort of just pivoting slightly and changing things slightly, and actually the benefit to all is huge. And I think so for me, it's about giving young people what they need in order to be successful, and that might look different depending on who that young person is.
Yeah, thank you very much for your views. Sujata, may I come to you now? You have to unmute yourself. Yeah, Sujata. No, there's no point, Sujata. We cannot hear you. cannot hear you.
Poor Sujata,
So,
I don't know what's going on.
yeah, I will come to you, Michael. But before we dive into the topic, let's take a moment to make sure everyone is connected. All the viewers are connected and can hear us clearly. I know they can't hear Sujata. My dear viewers, if you can hear us, could you please type yes in the comment section? Thank you. Anyway, uh, Michael, so what, according to you, is the difference between equity and equality in the context of neurodiversity inclusion?
It's a great question that you've asked, and like Sandra, I've been thinking about it a bit because, if I'm honest, I've not given all through my career, I've not really given much thought really to that equality equity debate. I see inclusion though, and someone just put in they can't hear Sujata, but I assume that means they can hear us. That's good. Because inclusion to me is about, and I think Sandra just hits it on the head there. Really, I think in terms of it's about inclusion. It's not about a place where education is or what they're doing. I think it's about young people engaged and participating and looking ahead to their adult life really. But in terms of the curriculum, I mean, I've just made a little note here. Equality. It's generic, isn't it? It's something that we want. It's like a human right. We want everyone to have those rights. It's group focused, so that could be maybe a demographic group or something like that. It's a group, and it's about everything being equal. And whereas equity is about adaptability, individually focused. Picking up what Sandra says. What does this individual young person need? And it's giving them that, and it's fair, and that's the fairness. And I've seen the graphic that you put up. I think we've all probably seen it, haven't we? Where there are three youngsters trying to look over a fence, and they're all given the same size box, but it still doesn't work, obviously, because they're a different height. So it's given them different size boxes, and so I think that's it really. It's about the adaptability, individual focus, and it's fair. And one of the examples I keep coming up with. And I think maybe a lot of us have faced this. So if I'm in a classroom and I'm advising a teacher or a special educational needs coordinator, they need something for this child, whether it's a fiddly or it's an overlay or it's an iPad or whatever. Some teachers said, well, that's not fair because the other children don't have that. The other children will make a bit of an issue saying that's not fair, sir or miss, because we want an iPad as well. And I think what those teachers are probably not expressing it very clearly or very well. They're talking about equality, aren't they? That everyone should have that. Whereas what we're talking about is, well, actually, it's adaptable, and that's what that child or children need. And interestingly, I have never heard any young people in a classroom say it's not fair. It's not fair that Sandra's got the iPad and I haven't. Because actually, children know. They know, don't they? If we were a class now, we might know that Sandra needs an iPad to record, but the rest of us, we can handwrite perfectly well. But I think it's sometimes something teachers come up with. It's almost like, well, it's not fair that we're doing that. But equity is, as the word says, it's about fairness, individual focus, and adaptability. I hope that makes sense. But that's just some examples. I mean, I don't know if anyone else has ever come across that where they're actually advising a teacher to do something different for a child because they need it, but then they're met with some resistance, strangely, to do that.
True. Very true. Sujata, if you are here, do you agree with what Michael said? There is a problem at her end. So let's pause here for a moment and see if there is any question from our audience. I see we have a few questions in the comment section. Let me take them. Anjali Pillai has asked, what are some of the challenges that neurodiverse individuals face in the workplace? And how can we address these challenges through equity-focused policies and practices? Who would like to take it?
I mean, I'm happy to. Am I on mute or am I speaking? Can you hear me?
No, you're
Yes.
okay.
I couldn't see whether it was on mute. I mean, I'm happy to have a go at that one. Leads on from what Michael was saying in a way about this perceptions. So I think it's about explaining the why in order to kind of facilitate the how. So what I mean by that is, Michael was saying that, you know, he'd had some resistance from a teacher because of the perception perhaps that it was unfair, or other parents might assume it was unfair that their child couldn't have X or Y. And in the workplace, I think it can sometimes be similar. You know, this perception that actually you're advantaging, you're you know, someone's going to be at an advantage. But actually, I think that's where it's important to be really transparent and to actually provide information and to, for want of a better word in this context, to educate people. But to, I think, if you think about in our relationships with each other, the more we understand each other often, the better we are able to get on and communicate. And I think it's, you know, you see it in young people, they especially actually neurodivergent children, they have to develop trust before they're able to actually engage. And that's a huge barrier in the classroom and everywhere, is that, and it's about getting across that understanding that actually that trust, that relationship is key. And that once that is there, then there is this mutual place that people can work. And I think it's the same in the world of work, that if your employees, if you want, or your team understand each other and understand why, and there's a kind of common, I guess, value base or vision that everyone's working towards, but there's this sense of sharing and being transparent, and also addressing the misconceptions. I think that can really help. There's a lot of, I talk a lot in my work about reframing behaviors and being kind of emotionally intelligent and remaining professionally curious about things. Why does that person need that? Well, they need it because, and the more people who understand the why, I think will help the how.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There are a few more questions, I guess. Himani. Yeah. Himani Barpe Patil. How can we promote equity for neurodivergent in such society where there is no awareness at all about neurodiversity? Very good question, I must say. Thank you for bringing it up, Himani. Anyone?
I think well, the answer is it's very difficult, isn't it? I think without awareness, a culture that begins to try and understand, you know, people that are perceived to be different, or I think it's very hard, and because what we need, this is about culture and leadership to me, you know, culture of a school, culture of an organization, leadership, you know, whether it be in a school or a workplace. It's helping people. And I think it's a great way of putting it, Sandra, you know, understand the why, you know, why do some people need something extra or different than others? And I think it's that continue. I suppose it's the sort of the work that you're doing, Manobina, here, isn't it? You know, you're reaching out to people, and people will listen, and people will take something from this and start to think, do you know what? I'm thinking of so and so who I work with, or is in my office or in my school, and they're a little bit different. And now I'm starting to think, hang on a bit, maybe they do need something a little bit different and some additional support. I think it is about that. I mean, the other thing I would say, you know, to raise the circle of all this, it's about politicians, isn't it, as well? You know, talking to politicians and getting them to start to develop policies and procedures, strategies, laws, so that young people, you know, who are neurodivergent do have, you know, some safety built around them. And there's some mechanics we can do, but above all, it's about relationships, isn't it? You know, and a relationship you know, we want positive relationships in any office, factory, school, college, where people do think, do you know what, we do need to do something different. But I think without that awareness, you know, the answer to the question is really hard, isn't it? You know, and we all know, you know, places. I know some school settings in the UK. I don't like to say it, but some school settings in the UK are not inclusive, and they don't do enough to ensure equity in their classrooms. So, and I'm sure we can all look at that, but it's very difficult without leaders and managers who say, do you know what, we need to assume that everyone in this school or office or factory or whatever belong here, and we are all collectively going to do all we can to keep them here. And it sounds easy, doesn't it, really? But actually, that is, to me, that's the challenge in a nutshell, really. Anyway, we keep going, don't we? We keep going, don't we?
Just going to add to that, it's that, you know, a good leader or a good person who is leading a team wants the team to be successful. The success of, there's some brilliant quotes on this, you know, there's no I in team and things like that. But the success of the wider project is dependent on the team really being able to support and work well together. So actually, it's that idea that if you support the individuals, you're helping everyone. You're supporting the whole project or the school or whatever it might be, place of work, to have a better result. And I think that, you know, that's really, really key. And some of these adaptations or things that are helpful to people are very simple to put in place and very useful. So they're essential for some, but I would say that they're beneficial to all. And so if you look at things like you know, having a really clear agenda, for example, that's going to really reduce that emotional sort of anxiety. But it's also going to help everyone to keep on track and have run an efficient meeting. You know, using sort of task management tools to help those who struggle with executive functioning. Well, task management tools are brilliant for everyone. Yeah. So I think it's accepting that actually everyone has a different strength and way of working, and just, yeah, a sense, like Michael said, a sense of belonging and actually wanting to grow as a team.
It's interesting that, because I think we talk about, you know, successful teams, and I suppose it's about employers recognizing the strengths of people who are neurodiverse. I mean, we can talk, you know, we all know about celebrities who have got ADHD or autism and have been a great success in their field, and I suppose it's about employers, prospective employers, and you know, understanding the strengths of individuals. I was in IKEA. You have IKEA in India, I guess, don't you, Manobina? Do you have IKEA, the big furniture place?
We have.
I've heard someone they've got places
in a couple of cities.
But IKEA, yeah. But I was there recently, and there were these two lads, obviously with Down syndrome, working there, and I didn't get a chance to talk to them or find out what their roles were. But IKEA have obviously recruited them, and they've identified what they're good at, because we're all good at something, aren't we? And I don't want to stereotype, but, you know, there are certain, you know, young people with autism are often said that, you know, they're really good organisationally and an eye for detail and all those sort of things. There's lots of employers that would love that, wouldn't there? That attention to detail and getting everything right and all these things. So it's about us constantly selling, you know, people in colleges to actually sell to employers what these young people are really, really good at. Because, I mean, these are businesses often, and it's about profit, but you can make profit if you've got successful people, regardless of, you know, how they are. So, yeah, it's a strengths-based model, something that I've talked about before with you, Manobina, you know, and I think we'd all say it's about looking at the strengths rather than the deficits or the negatives.
Very true. Thank you for your inputs. So there is one more question. I jotted down a few questions, but I really don't have any opportunity to ask those questions. There are a long list. There is a long list. So, Shilp Goreshwar, what role do allies and advocates play in promoting equality and equity for neurodiverse individuals, and how can we encourage more people to become involved in these efforts? Continuation with the last question, I guess.
I mean, I would say huge, a huge role, an essential role. Michael talked about some high profile sort of celebrities or, who have talked about neurodiversity or neurodivergent, and they can reach sometimes audiences that passionate advocates like we are can't reach. I mean, my son, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing, he's 14, he's on roll in year 10, but he has been struggling enormously with his anxiety. He's got ADHD, and he's incredibly bright and incredibly able in so many ways, but he doesn't feel that school is giving him an avenue or an opportunity to show those skills. But he's just beginning to realize that actually he's got some strengths, and he's sort of built himself with support. He's built himself a PC, and he's on streaming and doing that. I don't even know what he's doing. I don't even want to think about it, but he's doing things and he's teaching himself. But he has found, through social media, managed social media, he has found advocates. He has found role models within the ADHD community that have helped him to become more confident in himself, whereby in school perhaps, which doesn't have that strengths-based model currently, which is a big job to be done, where we're still looking at it as a special educational need rather than actually what are the strengths of this individual, he's been left to feel as though he's not good enough or he's not as good, and then his self-esteem has just plummeted, and then he's developed anxiety, whereas he's now beginning to grow and find this sense of belonging. Again, we talk about belonging, where he's aligned with people who are giving him just that seed of, you can do this, but you might be doing it in a different way. You can actually achieve this, but you're doing it in a different way. My only concern, I think, with us, I do agree we need a strength-based model, but my only concern is that some people talk about ADHD and ASD as a superpower. And I do agree aspects of the neurodivergent brain are exactly that. They're talented beyond belief, and the abilities are very different. But I think we do need to recognize that because at the moment our world is not set up to celebrate all of that in all its glory in the way it should, that actually the anxiety and the sort of comorbid difficulties that are alongside those with neurodivergent individuals can be very, very debilitating. So I think that there is, I don't know, I've gone off tack. I knew I would, sorry, but it's just the passion speaking. I think there are advocates in all fields and in many different ways, and sometimes we won't always realize the impact we will have. But I think to keep talking about it is really, really important.
Very true. Thank you very much. There are a few more questions. Helen joined us last week. What are the first steps when teachers are reluctant to make accommodations for students with learning differences?
Good question. I don't. Do you want me to step in here, Sandra? You okay? I suppose I talk a lot with schools about doing with rather than doing to, and I think teachers that are, have got questions, who might be struggling to provide for children in their class, I think it's sitting down with them and working alongside them to work out solutions rather than telling them what to do, because I've been around a long time, and it's very easy for me to go into a classroom and say to a teacher, "Oh, you need to do A, B, and C, and it will be sorted." For a start, what I would say would be rubbish anyway. I mean, because every child is unique and every situation is unique. But I suppose what I've got is a lot of history, I suppose, and I've known a few things that have worked over the years. But my starting point would always be, okay, with the teacher, what is the biggest challenge, do you think? How do you think we can resolve it? What do you think we need to put into place, and work from there? And it's almost like an in-class sort of coaching model, really, where you find out what the teacher wants to achieve, and they usually want the same things as everybody else. They want the same thing as the child does, the parents and everyone else. And then you might go back in a week or two's time and say, okay, we tried this, how's it going? And you go in and you'll go into the classroom and you'll observe for a while and say, do you know what, that's brilliant, that really is working, isn't it? Or it might be, okay, that's not working at the moment, let's try something different. What do you think we could do in addition or instead of? And I think it's that relationship, that coaching relationship with teachers, rather than telling them what to do. And I've done talks for schools, and all the teachers are just sat in the hall, and I've got my lovely PowerPoint slides, but I know it's not going to make any difference. The difference that I would make, and I'm sure you're the same for you, Sandra, and you, Manobina, you're actually in the space with the teacher, observing the child, connecting with the child as well, and working out together what is needed. But it's not easy, is it? But that would be the steps that I would take anyway.
Thank you, Michael. One more question: how can we promote the hiring and retention of neurodivergent individuals in the workplace, and what role do equity and equality play in this effort?
I can have a go at this one. I'm not fit. This isn't an area necessarily of confidence, but I think Richard Branson's done a lot, I think, for dyslexia in this field, in terms of really championing some of the skills, the real skills and strengths of dyslexic thinking. And I think, again, this is just all about that, flipping that kind of model. Rather than looking at the deficit, we're looking at the strengths, and we're looking at how in a team or a workforce, you need people that think differently. You need people that have different skill sets. You need that combination. I remember my first headship, I can't remember who it was that said it to me, but they were very wise, and they said, don't choose your senior leadership team of people who have similar skills and strengths and interests to you. Challenge yourself by actually, building a team of people who are going to work you harder in a way, or who are going to look at things differently to you, because you'll need that different thinking and those different skills, but also that's how you as a leader grow, isn't it, in your understanding. Yes, I think we just need to continue to educate people in the many aspects of, and we're continuing to learn as well, aren't we, through neuroscience, how things, what we know now, there's going to be even more that we're going to know in the future. And I think it is about really just understanding the different ways that people work, and coming to that place of working together on the bits that we find trickier, and environmental factors as well, because a given person in a different environment will be able to function and behave entirely differently. And I think the environmental factors of the workplace are also really, really important. I'm not sure if I answered the question, to be honest.
Very true, Sandra. And I would like to add one more question here. Like, what can organizations do to better support neurodivergent employees and create a more inclusive and equitable workplace culture? See, all of us are from education background, but yes, we also run, all of us or have been team leaders, right? I too lead a team, a school, rather, a special educational needs school. So, what can, as a team leader, we do to better support neurodivergent employees, if we have any? So
I
that
think it's
is
the
my
same
take.
process as we would do in schools, isn't it? But I think it's about, you know, what do employees need in the workplace to be successful, and I think it's looking at those plans, isn't it? And, you know, do they need an extra break or two? You know, do they need a little bit of, you know, because the one thing that we do hear about, isn't it? And I'm not personally, but, you know, young people who have autism, and they might be masking it, or it's absolutely exhausting for them in the workplace. So maybe, you know, little things like, do they need an extra break or two here and there through the day? Do they need a little bit of a different space where they can go to now and again? And I think it's about teams, and, you know, managers and employers and teams working together on that, isn't it? And realizing that some members of the team might need something different again. I mean, I think in terms of preparation for adulthood, it's really important, isn't it, that we start that in schools, you know, independent, you know, helping young people become independent and participative, you know, maintaining, you know, good health, you know, a healthy lifestyle and all those sort of things. And then there's that transition, isn't there, that's important, where we would get young people, you know, going through to school, into college, to get them some taster sessions in the workplace, you know, so we get people in workplaces getting used to young people who are neurodiverse coming into the workplace, and you know, maybe for some taster sessions, some work experiences, and then ultimately to employment. That's the goal, isn't it? That we get them actually earning some money for themselves, which then encourages again that independence, you know, independent living maybe, for some young people. So it's about us all working together. I'm going to say again, I think it's about politicians as well, and I know that what they do isn't always in our gift, is it? But politicians need to set the scene as well. You know, I don't hear many leaders of political parties in the UK talking about, you know, inclusion and equity, and I don't hear them talking about that a lot. They'll talk about performance and more children should be getting so many qualifications and that sort of stuff, but I don't hear them talking about, do you know, wouldn't it be great if we had schools where every child in that school felt they belonged? I've never heard a politician here in the UK talk like that, and I suppose that's what we want as well, isn't it? You know, so maybe we need to do a bit more lobbying of our local politicians as well, to get them to talk about it and start thinking about, okay, what can the government chamber or whatever, what can I do to you know, what policies can we implement to help that? It needs to come from the very top, doesn't it? But we're a little bit way off that yet. But, you know, we keep going at it, don't we? We keep the, you know, Manobina, you're doing this every week, and, you know, Sandra and I are working away in the UK at different levels, and we just keep going with it. But yeah, we're on the way, aren't we? We're on the way.
Yeah. One more question here. How can we measure progress and success in promoting equality and equity for neurodivergent individuals, and what metrics should we use to evaluate them?
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here, because I struggle, and this is, you know, this is what our entire education system is based on, but I struggle with standardized, you know, testing. I think there you go. I just think it's not fair, and I think it's not, dare I say, I don't think it's relevant in our world at the moment anymore. I've been doing some work actually with a school looking at the engagement profile, and I think, Michael, you talked about engagement right at the beginning of this discussion. Is the key is, I think, first and foremost, finding the interests, and then engaging the young person in their strengths, and allowing that creativity of thought and experience, really. I don't have the answer to replacing standardized testing as yet, because obviously our systems are so inherently based on measuring people against other people and then saying pass and fail. But I think that for me, it's about, again, strengths-based, looking at strengths and finding a way of developing a curriculum around the interests and the skills of a young person. That's where I am with that, really.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a phrase, I don't know if you've heard it, you probably have. It's like, don't value what we can measure. Let's measure what we value. And it's harder, isn't it? It's harder to measure what we value, because what we value, you just said it about engagement, participation, pride in what they're doing and their interest. That is what we need to measure, isn't it? Rather than scores and qualifications and those sort of things. If a young person does well academically, qualification-wise, brilliant. But yeah, I'm far more interested in, do they participate in clubs and activities? Do they have a friendship group? And
are they happy, dare I say it?
Exactly.
Heaven forbid, that you should actually thrive and be happy in.
Do they feel they belong in their school, in their college, in their workplace? And it's not difficult, is it? It's not a difficult question to ask. But for some reason, I know in the UK, we don't ask it enough. We don't really. We talk about student voice, but we don't really do it very well, I don't think. And whenever I'm in schools or colleges, and you talk to young people about what their barriers are to learning, what they need in classrooms, they are really eloquent. They will tell you. Some need some help in telling you that, but they will tell you. And when you give that feedback to teachers, some teachers struggle with that, but it's really honest, and it's brilliant, and we don't do it enough. But asking young people, do you feel you belong in this workplace, in this school? The answer to that.
And I think even Michael, you probably will agree with this. Even if you don't ask, I think the behaviours of, and I don't mean behaviour, I mean behaviours of young people communicate tenfold what's going on for them. And if you actually are curious enough to look and to think, why might that behavior be happening, then actually, you can find the answer pretty quickly. I think that we're afraid sometimes sometimes we don't know to look, but I think we're also sometimes a little afraid of the answer, because that will mean change, and change can be quite challenging. But I think whether it's a masking behavior or whether it's an actual, dysregulated behavior that's causing some difficulty, I think children are communicating their voices in so many different ways.
Yeah, very
Definitely.
True. Would you like to add something to it, Michael? Was saying something? No?
Say again, Manobina.
When I was asking about the role of equity and equality on Facebook, and asking for opinion from my colleagues and collaborators. One of my colleagues, Himani Patil, wrote on Facebook that not only equality, but equity and accessibility and empowerment are needed for people with disabilities and neurodiversity to help shape a more inclusive society where everyone has a fair chance to succeed. It is just like two different crops needing different amount of water to grow, and only equality will not work for their growth. That's what Himani said. Himani is attending this session today. Another colleague, Mrs. Kapita Sharma, wrote, belonging has many facets. So before we talk about other factors, this factor needs to be worked upon. A person needs to be accepted by the immediate family, school authorities, peers, and other support staff. This is a feeling, but it can be seen through the behavior of a person, be it a neurodivergent or a neurotypical. Cultural values, rules, etc., can be easily imbibed through various programs while including them. Once accepted, half the work is done. A simple way to greet a person while addressing him by his name will make a difference. Try. That's what Kavita wrote, and she's also attending this session today. So I'd like to know your views about it, Sandra and Michael.
Can I just mention? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Sandra. In terms of using the name, I mean, we talk about belonging, don't we? But sometimes just use someone's name. You know, somebody. When I was at school, if a teacher called me by my name or whatever, suddenly I felt a little bit more important. I felt a little bit better at myself rather than "oi, you" or. I think using the name is really important. It's only a small thing. It's not difficult, is it? But that is just a little thing we can do to help children feel they belong in a classroom, in a school, in a workplace. And belonging, I could go on about that all day. It's such an important thing. But anyway, sorry, I think Sandra, you were gonna cut you off, or
no, I mean, I think I agree with you about belonging. I had someone challenge me on this once, and they said, but you know, not everyone wants to belong, or not everyone should be forced to belong to something that they don't want to belong to. And that was my point. In being challenged, it made me realize, actually, no, you're wrong, because the whole notion of belonging means you do want to. So they were right in the sense that to impose a set of values, to impose, this is our school, these are our values, and you will agree to these, and you will show these in your behaviors and your interactions. That's not belonging. When you belong to something, you've bought into it because you actually feel a part of it. And I think it's something you feel, it's tangible. And the really sad thing is that if young people don't belong in their family or in their school or in their community, they will find somewhere where they belong. And that's where sometimes we find young people making the wrong decisions for their lives, because as humans, we need that connection. Yep. It might look different for different people, because there's the argument that not everyone wants to have this social interaction all the time. But the actual kind of connection with others, I think often young people will seek it out in places. We want our children to belong to our communities, to belong to our families, to belong to our schools. So Michael, I'm just so aligned with you in terms of belonging. It's just crucial. But to belong, you have to feel accepted, and to be accepted, then you have to be understood. You know.
It's all interconnected.
Yeah, it's at the you know, we're talking about equality and equity, but to me, it's right at the nub of equity, isn't it? Because if you feel, you know, if you're neurodivergent and you need some space or some time out sometimes, or you need some extra bit of equipment or whatever, if you're getting that, you're going to feel you belong, because you're going to feel that people understand you and want the best for you. So it's absolutely crucial, isn't it? Belonging, yeah, it's incredible, and I think schools and colleges and workplaces, we've got to create opportunities for that, haven't we? At very different levels, of course. Because, you know, in a classroom, are there regular opportunities as the class group to have some discussions and participate in some group activities, problem-solving activities, you know, working with others? It's the small things that build up to that. Yeah, getting people's names right and mentioning them by name, and I can remember when I was at school. It's a long time ago now, but I can still remember those teachers that made me feel really, really good about myself, and I can remember those teachers who made me feel tiny and undervalued and useless. And it's the same thing. You know, if you belong, your teachers make you feel good about yourself. Employers make you feel good about yourselves. They give you feedback every now and again, regular feedback, how well you're doing. Again, it shouldn't be difficult, but sadly, it is, isn't it, for a lot of, you know, neurodiverse young people. It is. It's not always there. Shameful, really. But anyway, we keep going, as I keep saying.
True, very true. Thank you very much for your views, Michael and Sandra. And we really missed Sujata in this session. Before we wrap up, Are there any final suggestions or advice for our viewers? Michael?
I think in terms of what we've been talking about, really, I think it's, small steps. I think it's considering the individual, take an individual focused approach to your work rather than a group approach. A group approach is it can be, it's leaning more towards equality, but I think we're talking about equity, and I think it's recognizing that everyone in a classroom, in a lecture hall, in the workplace, in an office or a factory, we're all unique and we all need something very different at times, don't we? Whether it's break times, spaces, equipment, someone to put an arm around you, so to speak, to check in with you at the start of a day, to check out with you at the end of the day. How's it gone? I think it's taking that individual approach. It's harder work, I think, at times, but I think that's, as professionals, that's what we're about, isn't it? We have to work, maybe not work harder, but work smarter and focus on those individuals that need that bespoke approach to help them be successful.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. Sandra, I'll come to you now.
Yeah, I mean, I would second that. I think also to a key thing is to remain curious. I think to just also just in the moment to be reflective as well. So remain curious about the why. Be reflective about what's happened and be open to being wrong and to growing and changing. I've been wrong so many times, and actually have learned probably just as much from raising my son to all the years I spent working in education. I've had to really reframe some of my perceptions, and so I think, yeah, being curious and being accepting. Just you don't know, I think Michael talked about this earlier, you don't know how hard that person is working to be able to deliver what they're delivering. So I think it's about recognizing, in fact, probably more about recognition than it is about reward. It's about, those are the key things, I think, from me.
Thank you very much. I really couldn't speak much today. I'm not feeling well. A bit feverish. Anyways, it was a very enriching experience for me listening to both of you, Michael and Sandra. Michael, it has always been a delight to have you in this program, and Sandra, I'm absolutely delighted that you could make it today. And yes, of course, I look forward to future collaborations with you in future. And yes, we missed Sujata. Maybe next time Sujata will join us, will be able to join us. Thank you once again, Michael and Sandra. Also, I want to thank each and every one of you, my dear viewers.
You're very welcome.
For joining
It's been a delight again.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And my gratitude to all the viewers today for your participation. Your participation has been invaluable. If you have any further question or need additional information, please feel free to reach out to us. You can post us on the messenger also. You can send your questions or in the comment section, or maybe you can write an email to us as well. Our website is www.iforinclusion.org, and if I receive any questions or feedback from you, I will forward them to Michael and Sandra. And we'll come back soon with another interesting session and with some more special guests. Till then, take care and bye-bye. Thank you, Michael. Bye. Thank you, Sandra. Bye.